Hey there, and welcome. Are you ready to give your English vocabulary a little boost? In this session, we're going to calmly and clearly break down 20 essential words and phrases. We're going to take our time, so there's absolutely no need to rush. The whole idea here is to help you not just understand these words, but to really feel confident using them. So, let's get started. So, to make this all a little easier to digest, we've sorted our vocabulary into 4 main groups. We'll kick things off with words for people, then we'll jump into daily actions, followed by actions that have a bigger impact, and we'll wrap it up with some interesting words for ideas and qualities. All right, first up, section 1 is all about people. We'll be looking at some useful words that describe different roles and types of individuals. Let's dive right in. Okay, first up we have the pair, trainer and trainee. A trainer is basically the teacher or the coach. And the trainee? Well, that's the student, the person who's getting the training. You'll often see this relationship with words that end in "er" for the person doing the action and "e" for the person receiving it. For example, you could say, the personal trainer showed the trainee how to lift weights correctly. Next, we have athlete and athletic. An athlete is the person, that's the noun for someone who's good at sports. Athletic, on the other hand, is the adjective, the word we use to describe that person's quality. For instance, he is a talented athlete with a very athletic build. Now, let's talk about some travelers. An astronaut is the modern official word we use for someone who travels into space. Spaceman is a much older, more informal word. You might hear it in old sci-fi movies. So you'd probably say, the astronaut prepared for the spacewalk. Now, this next one, tramp and tramper, is a little tricky, so you gotta be careful here. A tramper is just someone who goes for a long, long walk, usually out in nature. We can call that walk a tramp. For example, the tramper enjoyed his long tramp through the hills. But, and this is important, the word tramp can also be a negative term for a homeless person. So it's definitely a word to use with caution. Have you ever met a fanatic? A fanatic is a person with a really extreme, almost obsessive interest in something. Could be a sports team, a political view, anything really. So fanatic is the person. The adjective you'd use to describe their behavior is fanatical. And the abstract noun for that intense belief? That's fanaticism. For example, he is a football fanatic. His fanatical support for the team is intense. All right, we've covered people. Now let's move on to our second section, where we'll look at words that describe all the things we do in our everyday lives. Okay, let's step into the kitchen for our next 2 words. When you roast food, you're cooking it with dry heat inside an oven. Think of a delicious roast chicken or maybe some roast potatoes. But when you grill food, you're cooking it over direct heat, like on a grate. Think about grilling burgers at a barbecue. So the easiest way to remember is roast is in the oven, grill is over the fire. Simple as that. Feeling a little sleepy? Well, you might doze off. That's when you fall asleep by accident, maybe while watching a boring movie. A nap, however, is a short sleep that you plan to have during the day. And a snooze, that's a super short, light sleep. Just think about hitting the snooze button on your alarm clock for just a few more minutes of sleep. You could say, I was so tired I dozed off on the train. Let's talk about the word ventilate. To ventilate a room just means you let fresh air move through it. The noun for this process is ventilation, so you might say, wow, this room is stuffy, it needs better ventilation. And who doesn't love getting a compliment? A compliment is just a nice thing you say to praise someone. And notice we often use the preposition on with it. For example, he gave me a compliment on my presentation. Okay, here are 2 really handy phrases. First, to be used to something. This just means you're familiar with it. It feels totally normal to you. For example, I live in Canada, so I am used to the cold weather. Now, get with it is a bit more informal. It means to kind of catch up and understand what's currently happening. You might say to a friend who is a little behind the times, you need to get with the times. Let's move on to our third section. Here, we're going to look at words that describe actions with a bit more punch, often actions that are about protection. Let's compare shield and guard. When you shield someone, you're protecting them by putting a barrier between them and a danger. Notice the preposition. You shield someone from something, like a mother using an umbrella to shield her child from the rain. But guard is more about actively watching over something to protect it. You guard something against a threat. Think of a security guard at a bank. Their job is to guard the money against robbers. All right, let's get into some words about money and being protected. When you insure something like your car or your house, you're paying a company to protect you financially if something bad happens. And if it does,
say you get in an accident, the insurance company will compensate you. That means they'll pay you money to cover the loss or damage. And that money they give you, that's called compensation.
Okay, our next set of words is pretty serious, so let's be clear here. The verb to shoot means to fire a gun. The person who fires the gun is called a shooter. Now, on a different note, let's look at dramatize. If you dramatize something, you make it seem way more exciting or serious than it actually is. It's related to the word drama, which makes sense. You know when a friend is totally overreacting, you might tell them, "Stop being so dramatic." And here we are at our final section of new words. This time, we're exploring some more abstract ideas, words for feelings and personal qualities. Have you ever been so surprised you were just speechless? Well, then you were probably amazed or astonished. And something that makes you feel that way is astonishing. You could say something like, "The magician's trick was absolutely astonishing." Next, we have a really, really important word, consent. Consent is simply permission or agreement for something to happen. It's a key concept in all sorts of situations. For instance, a doctor always needs a patient's consent before they perform surgery. Let's talk about scale. If something is nationwide, it's happening all across an entire country. Think about a band going on a nationwide tour. That means they're playing shows in cities all over the country. And what about competition? Well, a competition is an event where people are all trying to win something. And the people who take part, they're called competitors. You might say there is a lot of competition for the top prize. And finally, let's wrap up with two powerful personal qualities. First, there's stamina. Stamina is your ability to keep going, your endurance. A marathon runner, for example, needs incredible physical stamina to finish a race. Resilience, on the other hand, is your ability to bounce back and recover from difficulties. It's all about mental toughness. So, to put it simply, stamina keeps you in the race, and resilience helps you get back up if you fall down. Wow, great job. We have just powered through 20 new vocabulary items. But, just hearing a word is only the first step. To really, truly make it yours, you've got to use it. So let's move on to our final section, your turn to practice. So I'm going to leave you with a little challenge. Take a look back at all the words we just learned. Pick one, just one, and find a way to use it in a sentence today. You can write it down, or even better, say it out loud. Which new word are you going to make your own today? Thanks so much for joining me, and happy learning.